was a kid, I would occasionally go with my dad to his work. He was in construction. He was a plastering contractor. And on the job site, there was usually a big pile of sand. So to me, I was a little kid, the pile of sand would be as tall as I was. It looked like a mountain. And we love to like tear the mountain down, and then we get in trouble. What are you kids doing up there? We got to use the sand for the plastering. But living in Southern California, you know that at certain times of the year, we get these winds called Santa Ana winds. Some people say they're Santana winds or Satan winds. Well, either way, it works because they're often very, very brutal. And generally, they're dry offshore winds. And I had to look up offshore. I get confused. I don't get confused between right and left. In fact, Tim suggested this week in CR that I get it tattooed, L for left and R for right. But it's like, I think I can handle that. But offshore and onshore, I have to think about it. And offshore is when the wind blows from the arid regions of the country down through the mountain passes and out to the ocean. And so one of these days, I think it was in the spring, the winds were very fierce. It was dry, very dry wind. It was cool. It was cold. So I was with my dad, and I decided that it was a good chance to try my hand at flying, or my arms at flying. So I got up on top of this sand pile, and I put my arms out and faced the wind. It was blowing. It's like, okay, I can do this. Jumped off, and of course I fell. And I kept trying and trying. I tried to catch the wind so that I could fly. Even ran around the work yard, my arms outstretched, but I just couldn't fly because I didn't have what it takes. I had no lift. I don't have the equipment. I can't, get up, get air. All I could do was chase the wind. Well, Solomon, the Solomon of the Bible, had a similar experience. It wasn't with the literal wind, but with life. Now, many of you know his story, but just as a little review, Solomon followed his father David, King David, to become king of Judah, and shortly after he was crowned, he was considered to be the richest, the smartest, and the most powerful man in the world. Before he built the great temple of Jerusalem, which was known in his day as one of the wonders of the world, I mean, people from all over the world would come to see it, one night God came to him. This was just before he started in that whole process of building and everything. And God basically said to him, you know what, Solomon, you're blessed. Your father David, he had some problems. He was sort of a dysfunctional character, He was a great king, but he did some bad things. I think he made amends. Psalm 51 is his step 4 and whatever other step he had to take. But you, Solomon, you have a chance to be great. You have a chance to go beyond what your father David did. And so he basically said to Solomon, ask me for anything you want, and it's yours. Now, if God said that to you, what would you ask for? And Solomon, he's smart. He's wise, see? And so he said, well, give me wisdom. A wise person would ask for wisdom. So God said, well, because you asked for wisdom instead of wealth and power, I'm going to give you all three. And the story we know so well, that Solomon became the wisest, the richest, and the most powerful man in the ancient world. He was wise in his riches and power, but he wasn't wise enough to know the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Maybe he was at the outset, but as he went into it, I kind of got confused. Because he was extremely intelligent, he wanted to know everything about everything. It's like a little kid who their mind wakes up one day and they start saying, Mommy, why do birds fly? Well, because, but why? And because, but why? But why? But why? But why? And, Solomon's like a grown version of that. He just wanted to know everything. You couldn't satisfy his questioning because it always led him to another question. He wanted to know he wanted to know how things worked. He wanted to know how to build an empire. He wanted to know about the natural world, how to use it, how to tame it. He wanted to know philosophy and theology and science and zoology, and he wanted to know about love, men and women and relationships. So he used his money and he used his power to acquire and experience and experiment with just about everything possible in the 10th century BC. He built beautiful palaces. He built cities and lush parks and gardens. He imported animals and treasures from all over the world, tried out every kind of mechanical device and probably chemical substance available at the time. And he collected women. He collected women. The Bible says he married 700 of them and kept another 1,000 escorts around in case he got bored with the wives. Now, if I have that turned around, it's like my left and right, so you can straighten me out later, but whatever. He had a lot of women around, you know. Talk about sister wives. Oh, my goodness. I can't even wrap my mind around 6 or 7. You know, now it's just like, seems like this trend of people, you know, taking on more than one wife. I'm waiting to see the brother husbands. I haven't seen that show yet. I don't think that one's going to happen. But I can't wrap my mind around having 6 or 7 wives, much less 700. That does not sound like fun to me. I love having one wife. After living it up and seeing it all and learning everything he could, he wrote a book we call Ecclesiastes. And some have called this the most depressing book in the Bible, because most of it sounds like this conclusion or this observation he came to in chapter 2. This is what he says. Life came to mean nothing to me because everything in it had brought me nothing but trouble. It had all been useless. I had been chasing the wind. Just think about it. Here was a man who had everything. He had money, he had power, he had brains, he had all the pleasure he could want, he had accomplishment. And he says that in the end it was about as fulfilling as a little kid running around trying to catch the wind. With all his effort and his learning and experience, he couldn't even get his life off the ground. What Solomon didn't realize, but he did learn, was that seeking knowledge is a dangerous quest because you have to pick the knowledge from the same tree. Remember in the garden, there was one tree that was forbidden for them to eat of. It was the tree of the knowledge of what? Good and evil. Now, I don't think God was trying to keep stuff. He wasn't trying to hide stuff from Adam and Eve. But he knew that if you just explore knowledge for knowledge's sake, you're going to get the good and the bad together. Solomon hadn't figured that out when he started his quest. On that tree, in this world, there's both good and evil fruit. The evil lies close to the good. You study the atom to understand and unlock the secrets of the material world, and you get nuclear medicine, a great blessing, but you also get nuclear holocaust. You study the intricacies of human psychology, and you can help people find their way out of dysfunction, but you can also learn how to manipulate, intimidate, terrorize, and exploit the masses as Hitler and Pol Pot and every dictator has done throughout history. And before you say, well, Solomon, he lived in primitive times. We're more modern, you know. We're more advanced. Really? Is the world a better place today than it was in Solomon's day? Are human beings more compassionate? Is nature running more smoothly, or does peace reign over the nations? Solomon's discoveries led him to some realizations and observations that have been true for every age since he lived. We're going to talk about these 3 realizations today. They are depressing observations. But stick with me, because we already sang about it. We sang about the conclusion. It's full of hope. All right. So first of all, here's the first realization. There is nothing new in human experience or history. What has been, Solomon wrote, will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Now, I suppose we could debate this one. You know, advances in technology and science have enabled us to build and travel farther and farther and accomplish more than ever. But life is essentially the same today as it was in Solomon's day. The sun comes up, we go through our daily routines, and the sun goes down. And that happens for as many days as you and I have been allotted on this earth, and then what happens? We die. See what I'm saying? So all that stuff in between It doesn't matter how high you jumped. It doesn't matter how far you traveled. It doesn't matter how much wealth you amassed. In the end, we all die. And that's what Solomon was smart. He could see the big picture. He could see the big picture. What about things like Facebook and Twitter, you might say? Those are not advancements in civilization, by the way. Those like show how far down we've degraded ourselves. Anyway, except when Yalda, tags me in a photo with my smiling face and goes out to the World Wide Web. But are you kidding? Facebook and Twitter, they had clay tablets in Solomon's day. And they had town gossips, by the way. Now, we know gossip, but we know nothing about gossip like they didn't have anything else to do. What do you think they did sitting around all day in the hot sun under the shade, They talked. They knew everything about everybody in town. They were up in everybody's business. Twitter, Facebook, are you kidding? What about travel? Well, their travel wasn't as fast, but they had horses, they had carriages and ships. And if you were rich, you could have a bunch of slaves carry you wherever you wanted to go. Now, carriages. Now, Diane and I decided to go out this week and get a new car. Yeah, we did. Actually, we've been planning it for a long time. Our van has about 300,000 miles on it. And it's running okay, but we put a lot of money into it. But, when I look to the future, I'm thinking, one of these days I'm going to get stuck on the 15 right in the middle of a horrible, rush hour, and I'll be up a creek without a good car to drive home in. So we got a new car. Well, it was new until we bought it. Now it's not new anymore. Now it's been used. And even though it smells like new, and I've been the one using it this week traveling down to Orange County, so if it's not new, I know she's going to say later, it's your fault. It's your fault. But it smells new, but in a year or two, it's going to take on our smell, and it's not always a good thing. And in 7 or 8 years, it's going to have evidence of wear and tear, and in 20 years, it's probably going to be recycled in some car-crushing place. And all of life is like that. All of life is like that. I don't remember if it's the second or the third law of thermodynamics. Tony, I know, could tell me this one. But there's a law of physics that basically says everything tends to deterioration. Maybe it's all three. I don't know. Everything tends to deterioration. Cars, galaxies, and people. Now, babies are better than new cars, though, right? Right? Babies are better than new cars. Hey, yes. And they're so cute and innocent and cuddly until they get to be about 2 or 3, and you say, "Isn't there somewhere I can trade this kid in for a new one?" So if you're a new parent, enjoy the new kid smell while it lasts. It only goes down from here. They get bigger, they get louder, and they get stinkier. Believe me, I have 3 of them. And of course, they're going to say to me back, "Well, yeah, and the older you get, the same thing's happening to you." There's nothing new under the sun. Nations are still at odds with each other. People still struggle on a daily basis to eke out a living and to find some sort of meaning in their lives. Addictions and dysfunction still operate freely in our age, just as they did in Solomon's age. And how long? How long have they been fighting over in the Middle East anyway? It's not new. It's the same old stuff with new names and packages. Now they have bombs and missiles and armies, but it's the same thing. It just goes on and on and on. And it's going to be that way to the end of this earth as we know it. Nothing new, really, under the sun. Second thing Solomon observed and learned was this: the quest for more increases the desire for more. Did you get that? The more I get, the more I want. You never have enough money. And you can read story after story after story of people who won the lottery, $60 million, $300 million, and within a few years, it's all gone and they're broke and maybe they're in jail or they're dead. You can never get enough. It just seems like that's the way human experience goes. Solomon says this in Ecclesiastes 1:8. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear of its fill of hearing. So we decided to keep our van. Like I said, it has about 300,000 miles on it, and I'm hoping it'll go to 1 million. Right. That'll cost more than a new vehicle to get it to do that. It'll go until it goeth no more, I can tell you that. But many of you know that our license plate is this. It's SAYC, the number 8, TD, which means in English, satiated. Lots of people ask us, what is that? And I say, have you gone to college? Satiated. So we're satisfied. That was Diana's idea when she got the van. I wouldn't have dared suggest that, but she did. It's like, I am so satisfied because we're in our honeymoon stage is still going, and she just, every time she'd look at me, she would glow, And so she put on the license plate, satiated. So now, the new car, she says, well, let's do this. Yeah, it's like, okay, we're not going to transfer satiated to the new car. This is what she wants, JNKLVRS. Now, I don't know if somebody's taken it, but it's junk lovers, Junk lovers. If we're so satisfied, how does that work, Evidently, something happened between 2004 and 2014, evidently. I don't know. The other day, we loaded up our van full of stuff we didn't need, and we just, at the last yard sale we had was with John and Jeanette. And I still have a picture of our sale out on the front lawn. John and Jeanette came over, brought their junk and our junk. And it's like, we can't do another yard sale. We've had 10 here already since we lived here. And it is Chihuahua Lane, but that's okay. We can't have another yard sale. So we loaded up the van, took everything to Goodwill. Well, not everything. We took the van load to Goodwill. Then a week or two later, we went to Paradise. And we visited almost every second-hand shop and junk store in town. And they got a lot of them there. And guess what? We loaded up our car with stuff to bring home and put in the new space we just cleared out by getting rid of the old stuff. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. And I would add, nor the junk lovers their fill of junk. I can testify to you. Hi, my name's Terry. I'm addicted to junk. Well, at least the Celebrate Recovery people got that one anyway. This is true. You know this is true, right? You're hungry, so you get here early on Saturday morning, and you see that Diana's made your favorite cookies. Maybe it's chocolate chip, maybe it's cherry coconut, and you take one and you eat it, but no one can eat just one. I know someone who is so addicted to persimmon cookies that she takes 8. I'm not going to say who it is, but someone needs your prayers here. Some of us are walking testimonies of the fact that no one can eat just one, right? I'll put myself there. I don't. I eat 2 and sometimes 3. If you try to satisfy your appetites, they just strengthen and you crave more. It's true of foods, it's true of drugs, it's true of sex, it's true of adrenaline, of so many things in this life. This word that's used, that Solomon uses here for appetite, is actually the Hebrew word nefesh, or nephesh. I don't know the actual pronunciation, but in other places it's the same word that's used that's translated as soul. That's an interesting realization. It's the same one translated as soul. The soul can never be satisfied with food or things or money or sex or power or revenge. The soul can never be satisfied with any of those things. Gratifying your appetites for anything will never bring contentment and serenity to your soul. Never. Ever hear of Howard Hughes? Here's what one writer observed after his death. He was the world's ultimate mystery, so secretive, so secretive, secretive. I got it. Okay, come on. Hi. It's been a long week. Okay, come on. so secretive, so reclusive, so enigmatic that for more than 15 years no one could say for certain that he was even alive, much less how he looked or behaved. Howard Hughes was one of the richest men in the world, and with the destinies of thousands of people, perhaps even of governments at his disposal. And yet he lived a sunless, joyless, half-lunatic life. In his later years, he fled from one resort hotel to another, Las Vegas, Nicaragua, Acapulco, and his physical appearance became odder and odder. His straggly beard hung down to his waist, and his hair reached to the middle of his back. His fingernails were 2 inches long, and his toenails hadn't been trimmed for so long they resembled corkscrews. Hughes was married for 13 years to Jean Peters, one of the most beautiful women in the world, but never in that time were the two seen in public together, and there is no record of them ever being photographed together. Hughes often said, "Every man has his price, or a guy like me couldn't exist." And yet no amount of money bought the affection of his associates. His employees, who were willing to say anything at all, reported their disgust for him as a human being. And then the third observation Solomon made is this: under the sun, life under the sun. An author, Chuck Swindoll, wrote a book on Ecclesiastes. He made the observation that remember, this is talking about life under the sun. It's not talking about life where God is, Life under the sun. Life under the sun is meaningless. It's meaningless. I, the teacher, was king of Israel, and I lived in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to search for understanding and to explore by wisdom everything being done under heaven. I soon discovered that God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. I observed everything going on under the sun, and really it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. Think about life. We're born and we grow up for better or worse. We go through school, at least high school, most of us, maybe college, maybe go on to get an advanced degree. Most of us aspire to find someone to share life with and to love. And so maybe you get married, or maybe not, as the current trend is today. You just live together with somebody for years. And or maybe you try to find a job, live out your life, day in and day out, doing whatever it is you do to thrive and to survive. We begin to look forward to retirement. I can say amen to that one. Anyone give a testimony? Yes. No. I was talking to Mike about that today. Retirement. Mike said, I tried to retire, and it didn't work. I hated it. So he went back to work, and this last week was a horrible week for him, but I think it was better than retirement, right, Mike? Because people want you and need you, and he's got to go fix stuff and fix problems, Get cities out of the mud. Ask him about it afterwards, the kind of week he had because of the rain. He's a fireman. I said when we first saw each other this morning, he said, so it must have been a hard week with all the fires burning. He says, it wasn't the fires, it was the water. It was the rain. So we begin to look forward to retirement when we can be free of our work obligations, take it easy and enjoy life, but by then we're old. Things don't work so well. We don't feel so good. And then we die. For what? What's the point? What's the point? And I know that there are some of you in this room who have asked that, and maybe today you're asking that same question. What's the point? Solomon says it's a tragic existence. It's a tragic existence. It was the same in his day as it is now and will continue to be as long as this earth lasts. It's all meaningless. The old King James Version says it's vanity. Chasing the wind is how he describes it. We love our persimmon tree in our backyard. And so do a lot of you, because you get to eat the cookies that are made from the persimmons we get every year from it. And that tree is probably going to outlive both Diana and I, and you, maybe. So then who will care? Who will care about it? Maybe it'll be cut down by the new owners of the house, or it'll die from disease, or maybe our house at some point will be torn down so someone can build a new one, or maybe it will collapse from termites. See, I told you, it gets depressing, doesn't it? It's depressing. I know it's depressing. Rarely a day goes by that we don't think about that stuff. Seriously. All that we build, all that we accomplish and produce, all that we love and own at some point will be no more. And people today think, well, we'll get past that. We have the cloud. We have the cloud, the internet. And the YouTube videos I post on the cloud are going to be there for generations. My kids and my grandkids and great. They'll see them forever. Because they say anything you put in the cloud, it never goes away. All the good and all the bad is out there in the cloud. Well, we think that all of that will go on and on, just like Celine sang in the Titanic movie song. But all it takes is one good electromagnetic pulse from a giant solar flare, and the cloud will be no more. The fact is, we are not immortal. We're not even long-lasting, and our lives, if lived just for this world, are essentially meaningless. They're a cosmic tragedy. But thank God, neither Solomon nor God leaves us in despair. There's this one conclusion, it actually comes at the end of the book, that trumps all the depressing observations that Solomon made. And this is what it is. The purpose of life can be found only by making God the center of life. The purpose of life can be found only by making God the center of life. Everything you were taught, Solomon says, can be put into a few words: respect and obey God. This is what life is all about. This is what life is all about. Now, to some people that might sound cold and impersonal, but it's not. And Jesus lived his entire life to help us understand what this means. When Jesus is at the center, when God is the center, we find purpose, we find meaning, we find hope, we find help, and we find healing. Here at North Hills, as I mentioned earlier, we have a ministry called Celebrate Recovery. It meets every Friday night, and it's a safe place for people who have come to the point in their lives where they know they need help with their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Now, you might think maybe that's nice for those people, but I'm okay. I'm just fine. And you know the definition of fine, right? If you don't, go on the internet and look it up. There's about 100 different ways you can do this, but it's fearful, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So when you say, I'm fine, you're not fine. Hi, I'm fine. No, you're not. And see, Celebrate Recovery helps people realize that and then get real help because they get out of their denial, right? So CR is one ministry, and we saw that this week. It crosses all denominational lines. It really helps people deal with what Solomon discovered, that life without God is meaningless no matter how hard you try, how many relationships you've gone through, or how many drugs you've taken, or pain you endure, or how bad your past was. What's the point if there is no point? And CR, our Celebrate Recovery, is all about helping people make God the point of their lives. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to invite our team up. They spent, these last 3 days and well into the night learning, again, what it means to put Jesus at the center. So I'm going to let them share a little bit about their experience.
We had a group of 8 of us, including Pastor Terry, that spent 3 full days at the Saddleback Community Church for the Celebrate Recovery Summit. And it was just extraordinary. The worship, the sharing, the stories, the teaching. And I wanted our folks, and there were 8 of us, and most of us are here right now, including Pastor Terry. But I wanted some of us to share just a little bit of what really stood out for them. Noelle, why don't you start?
Well, it was my first time, so it was kind of neat to see. I couldn't believe how many people turned out for it from all over the world. It was pretty incredible. What really stood out for me was the testimonies people had proved to me that it can be done. That all your problems don't have to follow you the rest of your life. And there were some pretty amazing stories. It just shows what can be done. And if people out there that have problems and think they don't know anywhere to go, CR is a great place to go to talk about that, because it's a safe environment for everybody to talk about what they need to in order to help each other and help the community improve as a whole and affect the rest of the community. And they really had a lot of stories about how they've helped in their communities, even as far as prisons, and help people turn their lives around and really change. So it was just proof to me that it really is possible, and I'm really excited to see where our CR goes as we continue to expand it within our community.
Thank you, Noel. Bucky?
It was fine.
This has never happened.
It's the only way I can.
2 words.
Yeah, 2 words. That's all I ever said. Boy, I'm sick. Here I am nervous again. Celebrate Recovery is in 13 different countries. There's 1.3 million. They're all Christ-centered. They've all been baptized. They've all had hard lives from anything you can think of, from preachers, lawyers, doctors, presidents, Aren't they fine, What I got out of it, it gave me something to feed me. It's what I want to do. It's what I decided to do with the rest of my life, is try to help others and initially have them receive Jesus. The only way you can cure any addiction, I've been through all of it, is strictly through Jesus. And they admit that. And everything that we do is through Jesus. We worship Jesus, we pray Jesus, and we know without His help that we can't be helped at all. And everybody's got a problem. They were born with it. Whether they have it or not, you're all in denial. Most of you say no, but you are. That's all.
Maggie co-leads Celebrate Recovery and is an important influence for the women who are part of our ministry. Maggie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie, and I am a child of God, grateful believer of Jesus, and I struggle with codependency. That's how we introduce ourselves. And this is actually was my 3rd time to the summit. And there was probably well over almost 5,000 people there. Very overwhelming. So much to learn. For me, though, I knew what to expect. And we were talking about the amount of people. And I said, oh, yeah, 500 people. But my thing was, because I wasn't so overwhelmed, that it just didn't seem like that many people. It felt like home. Everybody there can relate to everybody. And we're all forever family. Celebrate Recovery no matter what country we live in. We all get together and we sit and talk and go to sessions together to learn more so we can grow in Christ, so we can reach out to others and, and get our own Celebrate Recovery stronger so we can help the community. So for me, it was the leadership, the unity of leadership. That was really focused in my heart this week. And not just with Celebrate Recovery, but with our church and our community. The leader, the church, I just want to thank North Hills Church for putting Celebrate Recovery ministry here. And thank the support that we have and the development of friendship that occurs, the family. And I'm just very excited, and they talked a lot about missions, and that's in my heart. I would like to reach out and just bring people in. It's just amazing, and it's changed my life very, very much. And I just love people, and that was one thing that they talked about, how we all have that care in our heart, and every single one of us have a hurt, habit, or hang-up. Every single one of us. And here in the community, we're here on Friday nights from 7 to 9, but there are other Celebrate Recoveries around Monday through Friday. If anybody's interested, just look it up and check it out.
Thank you, Maggie. One of the highlights of our time there, and there were many, But Pastor Rick Warren spoke to us for about an hour and a half, wasn't it? He wrote the book, The Purpose-Driven Life. Well, he wrote first The Purpose-Driven Church, which became a kind of blueprint for us here at North Hills many years ago now. But he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, which has sold more hardback copies of any book ever. Just soak that in. Well, that's not hardbound, but yeah. But it has had a tremendous influence. And he shared on leadership and influence. And one of the beautiful things about Celebrate Recovery is it's what he called a leader factory. That people who enter Celebrate Recovery go through a process of growth and learning and giving things away to others, that you become leaders of one sort or another. It's tremendous. Tim, would you share something?
No. I was going to use Bucky's line, but he stole it. One thing about, this was my third time's a charm. I learned something new from it each time. And one thing that was mentioned was, it's in various churches, it's non-denomination. It's in like 25,000 churches. Was that just in the United States, I think? That's a lot. That's a lot of churches. I learned some new stuff about me. I want to look good up here, so I like the drums to sound good. It doesn't always work. And evidently that means I'm codependent. Great. But I also go to the what they call the other place for those people. And the one I go to is in the basement of a church. And I'm like the secretary of that meeting on every Thursday morning. I had to get coverage for it this week. And about half of our population there are out of the joint, as they say. They're incarcerated guys that have spent most of their adult life in the joint, because they come out and they're used to the prison system and the style of life there. They come out and they don't have the coping tools because they spend more of their time inside and outside, that they just can't handle it. And they maybe intentionally screw up again. They get put back and they're like, I got my own room now, and they're all comfortable in that. But there's a lot of people in CR gotten together, and they actually take CR into the prisons. And there's one girl that stood out to me because she has red hair. And her story was really amazing. And now she's cosmetology. She's a hairstylist. Is that the right word for it? Anyway. And she actually is teaching prisoners in Oklahoma, women prisoners, how to do that. So when they do get out, they have a career. And she also said something interesting that I had no idea, that the state of Oklahoma has the most incarcerated women of any state in America. So she's doing quite a job. And it's amazing, the testimonials. And even in the small groups, just talking to each other, new people that we don't know, we hadn't met before, is as different as each and every one of us are. We're not all that different, Names have changed, cities have changed, but there's a place for everybody with every kind of hang up and hurt, be it, being a drummer that screws up sometimes, or being an ex-alcoholic or drug user, whatever. There's a place for you, and they're even a simple codependent like probably most of you here. Anyway, I ran long again. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Tim. We've had quite a journey together, this group of folks here in Celebrate Recovery, and the invitation is always there. Friday evenings, we meet at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to take part of your life journey with us and with God in a special and powerful way, join us.
I am so proud of our Celebrate Recovery team, and you may not realize it, but their ministry in our church and their presence in our church over the last 4 or 5 years, because there was a year, I think we just passed the 4th anniversary, but there was about a year of planning before that, has from my perspective dramatically changed the culture of our church. And I thank God for that. It's made North Hills an open church. It's helped make North Hills an accepting, loving church. And we're already that way, I know. But, it's just been marvelous to see how God has used that ministry to just kick us all into a higher gear of love and acceptance to new people that come into our church. Jesus said this in Mark 12. Well, one of the teachers, this is from Mark 12, 28. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating, noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, and he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? And this is what Jesus said. The most important one, answered Jesus, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. See, the problem with us, when we talk about hurts and hang-ups and habits, we talk about addictions, when we talk about dysfunction and all that, the problem is we can sing, Jesus, be the center of it all, and be the center of my life, and Lord, take your place in my heart. But how do you do it? I brought with me my idol today. What does it mean to make God the center of your life today? To make Jesus Christ the very center of your feelings and intentions and direction and the purpose of your life. So this is an idol I keep around. I inherited this from Pastor Tom. I thought it was his. He said, no, it's been in North Hills office before I came. I guess it's North Hills idol. It's the North Hills idol. It reminds me of the idols in my life. It actually is a representation of a dream that came out of the Bible. Daniel chapter 2, the King Nebuchadnezzar, who's another king who lived maybe 500 some years after Solomon lived. And this idol represents all the kingdoms of this world, all the power, all the ambition, all the pleasure, all the wealth, everything that human beings think of as essential to making life worth living. It reminds me of my own idols because I have from time to time these same things try to take over the center of my life. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to give you my greeting again, Maggie, only I'm going to revise it a little bit. Hi, my name's Terry. I'm a recovering pastor. If you've been a pastor, hi Terry, thank you. If you've been a pastor, you know what I'm talking about. And this stuff tries to take over in our lives. Often I don't even realize what's going on. And I was thinking this past week when I attended the summit, I hadn't thought about this for a while, but I was thinking of some of the resentments that are in my heart that I've been carrying, that preoccupy a place that belongs only to Jesus. I need to let them go. I need to have the healing of Jesus from the hurts that caused those resentments in the first place. From time to time, I get cravings for recognition or pleasure or power. Those things threaten the purpose and the meaning of my life, and they will threaten yours, and they will undo your life just like they undid Solomon's life. So, I'm going to ask you here at the conclusion, what are the idols in your life? This guy, I can put him away. I can put him in the cupboard and not see him. But the stuff that takes over where God only belongs, it's not so easy. What are the idols in your life? What are the things that need to be removed from your life? What are the things you're holding on to or pursuing, and the things that in the end will leave you depressed and hopeless, just like they did Solomon? Are you wiser than Solomon? Are you smarter than Solomon? I don't think so. Are you richer or more powerful? Then why not learn from the mistakes of the smartest, of the richest, of the most powerful man that ever lived, and listen to his conclusion? The sum of it all, he says, is to fear, that is to respect, to love, to embrace God, and do what God wants. That's what your purpose is. That's what your purpose is. Now, I didn't plan this part out, but I'm going to ask Dennis if he would come back up here, and we're going to sing this song. And I want you This isn't just a sermon. It's not just a church service. God brought you here today for a reason. He brought you here because there's something he wants to give you. There's something he wants you to give him. And if there's an idol you have, you don't have to tell me about it or Dennis about it right now. Maybe later, but no. If there's an idol you have and you want to give it over to God, then I want to invite you to come down here. And Dennis, when we finish this prayer, this song, he's going to pray that God will help us release those idols. If you have a piece of paper, you can write it down and then crumple it up. Nobody's going to open it up. No one's going to read it. We'll take them out and burn them. We have a basket up here. You can put it in. And even if you don't have a pen, you can just crumple it up to represent what it is you want to let go of. Now, I know yesterday in the worship time that the team went through an experience where they took their sins up front and nailed them to the cross. Well, this is kind of like that, but this is putting your idols in the basket, okay? That's what this is. And don't worry about what other people think of you. Who cares what anybody else thinks about you? Do you want to know your purpose in life? Do you want to have meaning in your life? Do you want to find peace and serenity in your existence during the time that you're on this planet? God says the way to do that is to get rid of those idols and to he's not a dictator. He's a king, but he's not a dictator. He's not going to force himself into your heart. He's waiting for you to give him the room, give him the space.
Lord, you are God alone. We are so thankful that you want to fill up our lives, that you want to expand our horizons and bring your abundance into our lives. We have moments of disappointment in ourselves when we realize that we've clutched onto things that really in the end just don't really matter, and that we have a death grip on them. Right now, together, we have laid down every idol. We've laid down the thing that maybe we've had hold of and it's had a hold of us. We say yes to you. We now receive your freedom, your grace, your liberation to the very heart of ourselves, to the very core of our being. Thank you. Thank you so much for being the God of our lives, and that you proclaim liberty to us, that anybody who is captive by anything can receive freedom from you. So we thank you and rejoice in this today and ask your blessing on this group that is here today. In Jesus' name, amen.